Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. I have just recorded the most amazing Wedding Wednesdays podcast episode with Catherine Casey from the Marketing Club. She recently got married, hosted an incredible wedding, and I had a chat with her. She joined me on an interview where we spoke all about her decor choices. We spoke about her horrendous bridal shopping experience, some really amazing personal touches that she added into her wedding, and some really unique wedding planning advice for couples, advice that I've never heard before, that you probably haven't heard before. So I think you're really going to love this. Before we get started, if you would like to see a written version of the podcast episode, head to weddingsonline.ie and you'll be able to find all the podcast episodes with the links to where you can listen to them, as well as the written bits for each episode. This week's written bit will also include a list of Catherine's wedding suppliers, so you can check that out too. But let's get stuck in. Have a listen. Hi, Catherine. I'm so excited to be talking to you about your wedding. I know I've seen loads of pictures. I've seen stories on Instagram, but it's great to have you here actually telling us about your wedding. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. And thanks for giving me a little prep beforehand. I'm not used to doing podcast interviews, so it is fabulous to be here to talk about, honestly, the best weekend of our lives.
That's so cool. Well, let's get stuck in with the first question. You know, before you even started wedding planning, you got engaged. You had a pretty spectacular engagement. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So we got engaged in August of 2022 in Bali. So we had been prepping this amazing trip to Bali. It was on our bucket list for so long. And of course, like everyone, we were on Instagram looking for the best things to do. And then we came across this incredible viewing, like 2 hours away from where we were staying. So Damien organised for a driver to take us there, a fabulous Balinese man called Benny. So we went in the car with him. Of course, we were chit-chatting and he said to me, I actually hadn't been to this place before. So I said to him, why don't you come with us? I was like, the three amigos, the three best friends, let's go together. Little did I know that I was sabotaging my own engagement. So Benny actually came with us for the first hour and he left us alone. And then eventually Damien got down on one knee and it was just the most beautiful backdrop. It was like something out of a movie, minus Benny. But yeah, we had the most beautiful. It was a morning. It was stunning. And Benny came along and it was just so funny now looking back that I didn't even realize it was about to happen.
That's amazing. I'm sure when you invited Benny, Damien was like, oh no. How do I pivot? What do we do?
Exactly. I totally threw him off the track anyway, but I obviously didn't even realize myself. But you know what? It made for a funny story and Damien mentioned it during his speech. So it was a full circle moment.
Oh, that is so good. Oh, I love that. Okay, let's talk about the wedding now. So I absolutely loved looking through your wedding photos, and something that stood out to me was the colors that you chose. Lots of rainbows, lots of pastels. It was really an awesome mixture between, like the wildflowers that you chose and then this rustic barn venue. And I just loved the mixture of those two things. It was like feminine, but it was also strong at the same time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the theme, the feel, some of the decor choices that you made? Like, let's hear about it.
Absolutely. And firstly, thank you so much. So I suppose our theme and our colours were inspired by our venue, which, like you said, was a barn style venue. So we just wanted to embrace like that rustic, charming feel. There was exposed beams, lots of twinkly fairy lights, floating candles, wildflowers, which is why we brought in the wildflowers just because of where we were. We were in Doolin. It is so beautiful, so unspoilt. So we wanted to bring elements of that charming barn, but also the beautiful backdrop of Doolin into our theme. And I hope we nailed that. And there was a lot of thought put into it. I wanted everything to be kind of romantic and colorful and just to make our photos pop, but also just, I personally, I wouldn't be for the kind of monochrome theme. So I just want to bring in as much color. It was May and thank God the sun was shining. So yeah, that was the theme. It was just all surrounding beautiful Doolin and the rustic barnyard.
I love it. I think you nailed it. And something that I really loved was, some of the photos that you and your bridesmaids took before the ceremony began, where you were sitting in the grass. It was just so natural, really pretty, like showing off the location you were in. And I just thought it was really special. And I think something that you mentioned was that, when you think about the feel of the whole wedding, was that it was a mix of the heartfelt emotion and the lively entertainment, which we'll touch on the entertainment a little bit later. But I just love that you had that mix of something really deep and special and then something really fun. And then in terms of the look, you then, had the, those exposed beams, the rustic barn, those pretty wildflowers with the colors. And I just really love that. It just shows you don't have to go for one thing only. It doesn't have to be all pretty or all structured. You can have a really lovely mix of two opposing things that just really complement one another.
Absolutely. That was exactly the idea. We wanted the romance of the wedding, but also we wanted to have one big party as well. Both of our families, there's so much fun on both sides. So we wanted the perfect mix of both. So I think we had the kind of romance in the church and we had a beautiful ceremony. And then we had the fun when we got back to the barn.
I love that. And then, so just thinking back to the colors, how did you incorporate some of those rainbow pastel colors across the day with the decor and just different elements that highlighted those colors?
Yeah, so it kind of started off with our mass booklets. So I made the mass booklets myself on Canva. I think every small business owner knows Canva very well. So I made them there. And then I took those florals, those pastel florals, and I popped them on our crossword in our wedding, all of our welcome signs. And then I brought in that wildflower theme into the church, also into the barn. So I just kept the theme consistent throughout. And of course, my bridesmaid dresses also reflect that. I suppose it really started with the bridesmaid dresses, and then I brought it everywhere else into all of our stationery and our signage and all of that.
That's great. I suppose bridesmaids dresses are a really obvious but perfect way to incorporate your wedding color choice and then to extend that into the flowers, the mass booklets, the signage. And I just think the way that you did it was just really beautiful. But now, speaking of the bridesmaids and what their look was about, let's pivot slightly and talk a little bit about your bridal look, because you looked incredible, absolutely incredible. But I know you and I had a chat before, before you got married, just a little bit about your bridal dress shopping experience. I know you had a really great experience, but before that, you had a not so great experience. And I think a lot of brides might feel a little bit nervous about trying on their own dress. So I thought maybe you could share a little bit about your experience and what that was like for you.
Absolutely. I honestly love sharing this experience because it just shows that sometimes it isn't always that fairy tale you're expecting when you get your dress, and that's okay as well. So I suppose I found the dress online. I absolutely fell in love with it, and I'm based in Kerry, and this was only in Limerick, so it was only maybe 50 minutes away, my dream dress. So I went with my cousin and my mom, and we had a really poor experience. So we got lots of emails beforehand and it said, be on time, capital bold letters. And our appointment was at 9 a.m. and we got there at 3 minutes to 9. And I was so afraid of being late. We got there a couple of minutes early. And the lady said straight away, she said, well, you're on top of us now. And that was the first, our first interaction with her. And she was rude. She was unhelpful. I've never experienced customer service like that, and nor had my cousin or my mom. So I fell in love with the dress, but I didn't fall in love with the customer service. And as a small business owner who always talks about, good customer service, I couldn't hand my money over to that business. And it was funny, I actually shared this on my stories at the time. Now, I didn't mention the boutique, but the amount of messages that I got that said they had the very same experience in that particular boutique, people guessed it. And anyway, I found the dress again in the furthest possible spot above in Donegal, but I didn't mind. It was worth the train, it was worth the accommodation, just because I fell in love with the customer experience above in Pearls and Lace in Donegal. The girls were incredible. I can't say enough wonderful things about them. It was night and day, the two experiences. I got my dream dress. It took a lot longer than it should have, but I was glad to give the money to the right people, to the people who do business well.
I think something that you said, you've really highlighted the fact that, sometimes we forget that customer service is really important when it comes to finding your dream wedding dress, because it's not only the day that you find the dress and try it on. You're interacting with your bridal boutique on several occasions after that. If you need to have alterations done and they are the people that you're getting involved in that, you're talking to them then. If they're storing the dress for you until a certain point, you're having conversations with them then. Anytime you go and collect the dress, or you're having another fitting, or if you're going to try on your dress another time to see what it looks like with your accessories on and your shoes or whatever. Like, there's several times where you may be interacting with your bridal dress suppliers, and if you're not being treated well, that's not good. It's not enough to just say, okay, they didn't treat me very well, but it's just for today, it's okay. Because it's not.
100%. And I think, you dream of this day and you think it's going to be so magical, which it was in the end. And I had been to a previous place before, that place in Limerick, and I had a wonderful experience there as well. So I think this was just one bad egg amongst so many wonderful bridal boutiques around this country. And I can't put into words the experience I had. I've never had an experience like that in any business in the country ever. It was just incredible. And I shout that from the rooftops to anybody who will listen, because I'm all for good customer service, and the girls above there, they were amazing. And like you said, there's the before, there's the after, and the aftercare was as amazing as the day we were up there.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad that you were able to have that redeeming experience. Could you tell us a little bit about could you describe your dress and your bridal look to us for people who haven't seen the pictures yet?
Absolutely. So my dress was a fit and flare style dress with little capped sleeves, and it had a V neck, but we actually added pearls. So my seamstress, Kathleen Galway, she added pearls to the V neckline and down the back, and there was also lace along the sides. And we also added a few clusters of pearls there as well. I just felt like I needed a little extra something with the dress, and the pearls, I love pearls anyway. So we added those pearls, and yeah, I was just so happy with the way that it turned out. We did all the alterations. When I tried it on first, I'm only 5'2", so I was swimming in it. So it was lovely when it all came together in the end. And yeah, it was one of those things. Sometimes you hear brides and they say, that they've had their dress for so long, they're not so sure about it. But I never changed my mind on that dress. Thank God. And I think, it's one of those dresses. It wasn't fussy. It was very simple. So hopefully it won't be something that will maybe date in the future. But yeah, I'm so happy with it. It's actually just got dry clean now last week, so I'm going to be collecting it again tomorrow. So I'll see it. It was in an awful wreck when I was bringing it in there from all the dancing. So I'm looking forward to see it again.
Oh, that's so exciting. No, I love that you chose something that looked amazing on you, but also, like you said, isn't going to date your wedding photos, because it was a really classic, elegant style. And, it's not like when we look back on our parents' wedding photos from the 80s and 90s and they've got like poofy sleeves and, big frizzy hair. Like, your overall look was really elegant, very classic. And I think you absolutely nailed it. So we actually got a question in from Sean, who wants to know a little bit about some of the special touches that you may have added to the day. Were there any kind of personalized elements or anything that you did? I know that you've already said that you incorporated pearls into your dress because it's something that you really love. Was there anything else across the day, in the ceremony, decor, anything that you did that was like, we have to do this because this is so us and our guests are going to love this?
Yes. So I suppose for me, there was two things. So the first one was a crossword. So I bought the template off Etsy, and it was lots of questions about Damien and I, our families, and you could just fill in the crossword. And oh my God, it was just such a lovely touch on the day because it got everybody chatting. So, if you were filling out the crossword and you didn't know an answer, you would talk to the guests behind you. And that was the idea behind the crossword, to get people chatting. And it was a really big hit on the day. But I suppose the most important important element of almost the whole day for me was our memorial table. So we sadly lost my aunt last September, and she just meant the world to us. And everybody that we loved the most that couldn't be there, we wanted to remember them as best we could. So I actually found this beautiful quote on Pinterest, and it read, "I'm in heaven for your wedding, so what shall I do? I'll come down to earth to spend it with you. Just save me a seat, just one chair. You may not see me, but I'll be there." So I saw this quote and I wanted to bring this in. It's so beautiful. There was tears in my eyes and I knew it was perfect for the day. So when they said about save me a chair, I was Googling online and I was looking for like little wooden chairs. And eventually I came across this shop on Etsy, and they did personalized rocking chairs with, you could etch in somebody's name. So we did our grandparents on these little benches together. And then for everybody else, we did individual rocking chairs with their names. And it was, the timing of it was so like, the whole day I was here, there and everywhere. But as I was walking into the venue just before we were going for dinner, my mom and her sisters, so obviously they had lost their sister in September, and I saw their reaction to it as they first saw it. And oh my God, their reaction, we all started crying. It was just so special. And my late aunt's husband said to me, he was so touched by it. So we knew then that, you know, that we did a good job with that. And it was so important. I was asking Rena, the lady that was looking after the decor, just to make sure there was lots of fabulous florals and candles, and to make that, you know, front and center, because the people that we loved the most, of course, couldn't be there. So I just wanted to make sure that they were remembered as best we could.
I just love that. I think that's so special. And, you know, when you've got somebody who's really close to you, but, you know, sadly, they're not able to be there, to find ways to commemorate their, you know, just their memory, and to feel like, you know, they're here, you know, they're with us, they're part of the day. I think that's so special. And I just love how you took an idea that you had and you really made it your own. And so, yeah, for anyone else who's listening, who's trying to find creative ways to, you know, incorporate some lost loved ones into the day, you know, there's so many really special things to do. And like you said, Catherine, I think the key thing is to have a moment where you look at it and go, you know, they're here, they're with us. And for their, you know, partners and siblings to be able to say, wow, we feel something really special. I think that's really amazing. Something that I've spoken about in previous episodes before is, I think especially for couples who want to really be present on the day, something that's really key is not to be afraid of emotions. And, you know, sometimes that's in the ceremony, is just allowing yourself to be a little bit emotional, happy or sad, tears, whatever, you know, while you're exchanging your vows and that kind of thing. But even something like this, it can be so tempting to say, oh, if we have this memorial table, people are going to be a little bit sad. But actually, it's not sadness. It's more saying, you know, we wish they could be with us, but look, we're honoring their memory. They're here. We're not going to avoid the fact that they're not here. We're going to lean into this. And that really does help people to be present on the day, just connecting their emotions with something that you've created. And I think the way you did it just sounds really special. So
yeah, it was so important. I remember sending Rena pictures of exactly how I wanted the benches to be. It was just one of those things I was very pedantic about. I just wanted to make sure it was perfect. And when they came in the door, when I got them delivered, oh my God, I was crying for an hour. It was just, our families just mean so much to us, our grandparents as well. So it was just lovely to remember everybody, because they would have loved to have been there so much, but they were there with us in spirit.
I love that. Well, let's change the tone slightly and let's talk a little bit about entertainment. So you've described to me that the entertainment felt electric. And I know we spoke earlier about this amazing mix of heartfelt emotion and then the electric entertainment. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the things you did to entertain your guests, how you got the party going, and maybe a few surprises that guests didn't expect?
Yes. So like I said, we were going for the kind of the romance, but also lots of fun. We really wanted a big party in Doolin, and that's definitely what we had. So we had a magician and mind reader, Oisin Foley. He was incredible. So we had seen him at a friend's wedding and we booked him the next day. He just went around from guest to guest at the drinks reception and he had everybody mesmerized. And then we also had the surprise, and only Damien and I knew about, our singing waiters. And oh my God, one of them just fell to the floor. And then I thought she banged her, or my mom thought she banged her head. And my mom said, oh my God, is she okay? Did she you bang your head? It was so funny. So, and then she got up and she started, of course, singing, and they had everybody up on their feet. And it's not often that you see every single person on their feet. People were on chairs, on tables. It was just so much fun for kind of 40 minutes. And, when I look back at the videos, just that everybody took themselves, it was absolutely electric, because sometimes you kind of get lost in the moment yourself. So I'm really looking forward now to see the wedding video when we do look back. So we also had our band, which was Pat Fitz and Polly Walsh, which was our DJ, and they were all incredible. Everybody, all the entertainment on the day was 10 out of 10, but they were all recommendations. So we just went with, who our friends had trusted in the past, and they didn't let us down.
Oh, that's so good. You know what? Recommendations are such a great way to find your dream suppliers, because it's one thing to be looking at people's reviews online and to see, couples that you don't know recommending someone, but to be able to talk to people that you know who have recently gotten married. I just love that. That's something that we say to couples all the time, is that if you don't know where to start, ask for recommendations, because then you're getting people that have performed or, hosted weddings before, and that they've got a good recommendation. So I love that that's where you got advice from other couples that which actually brings me to my final question for you is, do you have any advice for couples that are planning their wedding? Anything that you learned along the way while planning your wedding? Anything that you look back on now and think someone will need to know this?
Okay, so I have 3 quick pieces of advice, because I knew this was a question that might come up. Okay, so first of all, it actually surrounds the weather. So the weather was the only thing that was making my mood go up and down a little bit before the wedding. And I think once the 10-day forecast comes out, I got a bit obsessed with the weather. So I would just say, the weather is going to change like the wind. Look at the weather a couple of days out, and then you can prepare. If the weather isn't good, you can get your brollies out and that kind of thing. But other than that, don't check, because it's just a waste of your energy. It's going to put your mood up and down, so it's a waste of time. Number 2, and something that I was told not to do, but I kind of went against it more for time reasons, was our mini moon. So we went away for a couple of nights. We're actually just back. And our honeymoon is later on in the year, and people told me to head away straight from the venue to go for a couple of nights on a staycation. And we decided not to, because we just said we'd be so tired. And I'm so glad that we didn't, because we came home on the Monday and we went out for dinner with Damien's family. We called my family. And on the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, we were meeting family and friends, reminiscing about the wedding, laughing about the wedding, about how much fun we had. And I felt like it was an extension of the wedding. So if we had left, we would have missed that bubble straight away. So I was so glad that we had waited. And then the final thing I would say, and I've never heard anyone mention this before, but this was kind of a spur of the moment thing that I did. So the morning of the wedding, I actually took a minute out by myself, and I took a video of myself. I locked myself into a room and took a video of myself. And I just said, it's the 11th of May, 2024. You've had the most amazing morning with your girls, and you're marrying the love of your life. Kind of, let's do it. It's kind of like a pep talk to myself, but I videoed myself saying it. And I didn't show it to anyone. I've no notion of showing it to anyone, but it was just to have it. And now when I look back in that video, the emotion in my eyes and the emotion in my voice, I would have never remembered exactly how I felt had I not had that video. So either just take time out yourself just to really take it all in, or record your reaction, because it's just one of those days. Everybody's coming for you and your other half, and it's just the most magical, wonderful day full of love.
I love that. You're right. I've never heard someone give that advice before, but you're right. That's the kind of emotion that if you don't capture it then and there, you might forget. And you'll probably find when you get your wedding video, there'll be other moments from the day that you think, I don't even remember that happening, or I don't remember the level of emotion that I had when that happened. So that's great advice. And what you said about not going on a staycation straight away. Obviously, it's a personal decision for couples, but I think something that you highlighted, which is really important, is if you have family and friends coming from somewhere else and you only see them on the wedding day and then you head off somewhere, you almost miss that opportunity to really sit and hang out with people and make the most of that extra time together. And so I think the way that you guys did it sounds like it was perfect for you. More time with friends and family. So before we conclude, I just want to find out, is there anything else that you'd love to share about your big day? Anything that I haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, so I suppose the last thing I would say is personally, getting a videographer was so important for us because we've already got back our first clip. It's like a minute long clip. We're getting back our full video next week. And I've heard a lot of couples saying that they're not getting videographers anymore. And don't get me wrong, they are very expensive, but there's different things you can do with content creators, things like that. But even looking back at that 1 minute clip and, having a video of my mom's reaction when I walk out, my dad walked me up the aisle, Damien turning around smiling when he sees me coming up the aisle, those kind of moments, I could never, it's such a blur. They're hard to almost remember. So having them on video forever is so special. And I always thought to myself, when people are no longer with us, look back at their natural reactions on the day is something that money can't buy. So if you are on the fence about getting a videographer, I would highly recommend getting it, or a content creator, anything that will fit your budget, because even looking back at that minute long video, it's so magical. And I just, one of the best decisions that we made.
Oh, that's so good. I 100% agree. I almost didn't have a wedding video for my own wedding because I was like, I can't afford this. This is a luxury. And then a couple of weeks before, we just made space in the budget. And we're like, we just actually have to do this. And I'm so glad we did. And this is one of the regrets that I hear so many couples have after their wedding, because you can't undo that. If you don't have a wedding video, you can't host the same wedding again and capture those moments again. You either have a wedding video or you don't. So that's amazing advice. And Catherine, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today and sharing your wedding story. For those listening, I will post a written version of this episode on the Weddings Online blog, and I will list all of Catherine's suppliers as well. So if you want to find out more about her amazing bridal boutique that she ended up with, if you want to know about the wedding videographer and all the other suppliers that helped to make this incredible day, weddingsonline.ie is the place to go and get that. But Catherine, thank you so much. It's been awesome chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm not used to podcasts. It's only my second podcast ever, and you've made me feel so comfortable. And it actually just felt like a lovely chat. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.